Captain Sarah Chen stood at the helm of the CSS Dauntless, watching the unfamiliar stars streak past the view screen. The experimental warship represented humanity's most advanced achievement in space warfare, though compared to what lay ahead, it might as well have been made of sticks and stones. First contact with the Galactic Alliance was supposed to happen through proper diplomatic channels. Not like this, not running full burn toward a distress signal. Signal holding steady, Captain. Lieutenant James Morris reported from the communications station. Definitely Alliance encryption patterns, but the message is badly degraded. Whatever's happening out there, it's not good. Chen nodded, her expression grim. The Dauntless had been conducting its shakedown cruise at the edge of explored space when they detected the transmission. Though humanity wasn't officially part of the Alliance yet, they couldn't ignore a cry for help. Time to intercept. 3 minutes to drop from FTL. Commander David Rodriguez answered from navigation. But Captain, energy readings are off the charts. Looks like we're dropping into one hell of a firefight. All hands to battle stations. Chen commanded, her voice steady, despite the tension coiling in her gut. Tactical, ring up everything we have on Alliance combat protocols. We need to make sure they know we're friendlies when we arrive. The crew worked with practiced efficiency, though none of them had ever faced actual combat. The Dauntless was humanity's first true warship, designed to protect Earth's growing colony network. Its hybrid weapons systems combine traditional ballistic weapons with reverse-engineered alien technology, not quite up to Alliance standards, but dangerous in its own right. Reality twisted as the Dauntless dropped out of FTL, and chaos erupted across every sensor screen. A massive space station hung against the backdrop of a blue gas giant, its elegant crystalline architecture marred by weapons fire. Around it, sleek Alliance vessels traded energy beams with darker ships that seemed to absorb light itself. Multiple Alliance vessels detected. Tactical Officer Sarah Wong reported. They're in a defensive formation around the station. Hostile forces. Captain, I've never seen readings like these. The enemy ships are putting out impossible energy signatures. Chen watched as one of the dark vessels caught an Alliance cruiser in a crossfire. The cruiser's energy shields flared brilliantly before failing, and the ship split apart in a silent explosion. The Alliance formation was textbook perfect, and completely ineffective against whatever they were fighting. This is the CSS Dauntless to Alliance forces. Chen broadcast on all frequencies. We are a human vessel responding to your distress call. How can we assist? The response was immediate. Unknown vessel, maintain distance. This is a restricted combat zone. The Void Hunters cannot be engaged without proper combat protocols, and the transmission cut off as another Alliance ship disappeared in a flash of light. Chen had seen enough. Tactical analysis of enemy weapon systems. Wang's fingers flew across her console. They're using some kind of energy-draining weapon, Captain. Alliance shields seem useless against it. But she paused, a slight smile crossing her face. Their targeting systems are calibrated for energy shields. Our titanium tungsten armor might as well be invisible to them. And our kinetic weapons? Chen asked, though she already knew the answer. No energy signature to drain, Captain. Good old-fashioned railguns and mass draggers. Chen allowed herself a tight smile. Plot an attack vector through their formation. Let's show the Alliance that sometimes the old ways are the best ways. All hands, prepare for combat maneuvers. The Dauntless surged forward, its conventional engines pushing it into the heart of the battle. The Void Hunters seemed to ignore it at first, their sensors likely dismissing the relatively primitive vessel as debris or an escape pod. That changed when the first railgun salvo tore through one of their ships. Physical projectiles moving at relativistic speeds proving far more effective than energy weapons. Direct hit, Wang called out. Enemy vessel showing multiple hull breaches. They're breaking formation, Captain. I think we surprised them. Alliance vessels are regrouping, Rodriguez reported. They're requesting tactical data. Should we share our targeting solutions? Chen watched as another Void Hunter vessel exploded under combined fire from Alliance energy weapons and Dauntless's kinetic arsenal. Send them everything. Show them why humanity still believes in backup plans. The battle that followed would become legendary in both human and Alliance records. The Dauntless danced through the enemy formation, its primitive weapons wreaking havoc, while Alliance ships adapted their tactics to support the newcomer. Within 20 minutes, the remaining Void Hunters retreated, leaving behind a graveyard of twisted metal and valuable tactical data. As Chen surveyed the aftermath, a transmission came through from the space station. The Alliance commander's holographic form appeared on the bridge, its crystalline features arranged in what she hoped was an expression of respect. "Captain Chen," the commander said, "it seems we owe humanity an apology. We had dismissed your species as technologically inferior. Today, you have proven that innovation comes in many forms." Chen stood a little straighter. "Thank you, Commander, though I hope next time we meet under less hostile circumstances." Indeed, the Alliance would be honored to expedite your species' membership application. It seems we have much to learn from each other. As the transmission ended, Chen looked around at her proud crew. Humanity's first official contact with the Galactic Alliance hadn't gone according to plan, but they had proven something valuable. Sometimes the best solution isn't the most advanced one. It's the one that works. "Communications," she ordered. "Send word back to Earth. Tell them the galaxy just got a lot more interesting." 2 weeks after their dramatic first contact, the CSS Dauntless patrolled the edges of Alliance space alongside the crystalline warship Eternal Vigilance. Captain Chen watched through the viewscreen as the Alliance vessel executed another perfect formation change, its movements precise to the millimeter. The joint patrol was supposedly a gesture of cooperation, but Chen knew better. They were being studied. "Alliance vessel is requesting another systems analysis," Lieutenant Morris reported from communications, not bothering to hide his annoyance. "Fifth one today. Send them the same data as before," Chen replied, sharing her crew's frustration. The Alliance seemed obsessed with understanding how their primitive ship had succeeded where their advanced technology had failed. They kept searching for some hidden sophistication in the Dauntless's systems, refusing to accept the simple truth. Sometimes basic was better. The alert klaxon shattered the routine moment. Multiple quantum signatures detected. Wang called from tactical. Void Hunter patterns confirmed. They're attacking the Meridian colony. Chen's blood ran cold. Meridian was one of the Alliance's oldest settlements, home to millions of civilians. "Time to intercept." 20 minutes at maximum burn, Rodriguez answered. "Alliance Command is mobilizing a response fleet, but they're further out. We're the closest ships." The Eternal Vigilance was already moving, its crystal hull gleaming as it prepared for quantum jump. "Alliance vessel is transmitting tactical protocols," Morris reported. "They're requesting we follow their formation exactly." Chen studied the tactical display, watching the Void Hunter ships emerge from quantum space around the colony. Their pattern was different this time, more aggressive, more confident. They had adapted to the Alliance's responses, just as she feared they would. "Negative," she decided. "Tell them we'll coordinate, but we're doing this our way. Wang, get me everything we have on Meridian's orbital dynamics. Rodriguez, plot me a slingshot course around that inner moon." The Alliance commander's protest was immediate and predictable. "Captain Chen, this is not acceptable. Combat protocols clearly state, 'With respect, Commander,'" Chen cut in. "Those protocols are exactly what the Void Hunters are counting on. Trust us. Sometimes the best move is the one your enemy thinks you're too smart to make." The Dauntless's engines roared to life, pushing the ship into a trajectory that would have made any pilot from Earth's early space age proud. Instead of quantum jumping directly to the colony, they used the gravity of Meridian's moons to build speed, arriving from an entirely unexpected vector. "Void Hunters are fully committed to their attack pattern," Wang reported as they approached. "They've adapted to Alliance shield frequencies. Energy weapons are having minimal effect." Chen smiled grimly. Good thing we brought plenty of old-fashioned bullets then. Target their rear elements. They won't expect an attack from behind. Morris, send targeting data to the Eternal Vigilance. Let's show them how humans coordinated before we had quantum computers. The battle that followed was a masterclass in asymmetric warfare. While the Void Hunters focused their advanced weapons on the colony's energy shields, the Dauntless swept through their formation like an ancient cavalry charge. Railgun fire and tactical nuclear warheads, weapons the enemy's sophisticated defenses never saw coming, tore through their ranks. Enemy ships attempting to regroup, Wang announced. Captain, they're trying to copy our maneuvers, but their ships can't handle these gravitational stresses. Chen watched as a Void Hunter vessel tried to duplicate their slingshot trajectory, only to be torn apart by tidal forces. Send to the Eternal Vigilance. Now would be a good time for that precise targeting of theirs. The Alliance warship responded beautifully, its energy weapons picking off the scattered enemy ships with surgical precision. Working together, the two vessels drove the Void Hunters back, saving the colony with minimal civilian casualties. Hours later, Chen stood in Meridian's command center, facing a council of Alliance leaders. Their crystalline forms sparkled with what she had learned to recognize as agitation. Your tactics violated 17 different combat protocols, one council member stated. You ignored formation standards, used prohibited weapons, and exposed your vessel to unnecessary risks. And saved millions of lives, another counselor added quietly. Perhaps our protocols need revision. The Alliance commander from the Eternal Vigilance stepped forward. My crew observed something remarkable today. The humans don't just use primitive weapons. They think differently. They see patterns we miss, take risks we would never consider, and most importantly, they adapt. That's what humans do best, Chen explained. We learn, we improvise, we overcome. Your technology is incredible, but technology alone isn't enough against an enemy like the Void Hunters. Sometimes you need a little human chaos in the mix. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, the lead counselor spoke. Captain Chen, we would like to propose an exchange program. Alliance officers aboard your vessel, human officers aboard ours. Perhaps it is time we learned from each other. Chen smiled. The Alliance was beginning to understand what humanity brought to the table. It wasn't just their weapons or tactics. It was their perspective, their willingness to try the unconventional, their ability to think outside the quantum box. We would be honored, she replied. Though I should warn you, human training methods can be a bit unorthodox. As she left the chamber, Chen couldn't help but smile at the thought of Alliance officers trying to understand human battle doctrine. Sometimes the best way forward wasn't to advance. It was to remember where you came from and why those old lessons still mattered. The holographic tactical display aboard the CSS Dauntless filled with swirling patterns as Lieutenant Wang loaded another month's worth of Void Hunter attack data. Captain Chen watched alongside Commander Crix, their Alliance exchange officer, whose crystalline form reflected the shifting light. The attacks seem random, Crix observed, their voice modulator conveying frustration. Our most advanced prediction algorithms have found no actionable patterns. Chen stepped closer to the display, her eyes narrowing. Something about the attack vectors tugged at her memory. Show me the supply road overlays. All of them, not just the primary lanes. Supply routes are irrelevant, Crix stated. The Void Hunters target population centers and military installations, not cargo vessels. Humor me, Chen replied, and Wang quickly added the requested data. The supply lines appeared as thin blue threads connecting Alliance worlds and stations. Most were heavily defended, but some. There, Chen pointed to a seemingly empty sector. These attacks aren't random. They're hurting us. Wang and Crix moved closer, studying the area she indicated. 3 recent Void Hunter raids had forced the Alliance to reroute supply ships away from their normal paths, channeling them through supposedly safer corridors. They're not targeting our strongholds, Chen explained, highlighting several attack patterns. They're manipulating our response protocols, deliberately pushing our supply lines into specific sectors. But why? The answer came 2 days later, when the Dauntless was patrolling one of these safe corridors. They had been joined by the Alliance cruiser Starlight Seeker, its advanced sensors sweeping space for any sign of the enemy. Energy spike. Wang called out. Multiple quantum signatures emerging. This is different, Captain. The pattern is wrong. Before Chen could respond, space itself seemed to tear open. The vessels that emerged weren't the usual Void Hunter ships. They were massive angular constructs that dwarfed anything they'd encountered before. Harvest vessels, Crix whispered, their crystalline form dimming with fear. The legend spoke of them, but we thought they were myths. They don't just destroy, they consume. Resources, technology, entire worlds. Chen watched as the massive ships began moving toward the nearest supply convoy. That's why they've been herding our ships here. They've been gathering their prey. She turned to Morris at communications. Send an emergency alert to Alliance Command. Then get me everything we have on these harvest vessels' energy signatures. Alliance Command responding. Morris reported moments later. They're mobilizing the fleet, but it will take hours for reinforcements to arrive. The Starlight Seeker is requesting we withdraw and preserve our ships. Chen shook her head, studying the tactical display. The harvest vessels were huge, but their size suggested something about their design philosophy. They're built for efficiency, not combat. All those resources they've consumed, they'd want to protect them. Wang, scan for energy shielding concentrations. Multiple layers detected, Wang confirmed. But there's something odd about the distribution. The shields are strongest around their collection chambers. Because that's where they store everything they've harvested, Chen realized. Those chambers are their weakness. They can't risk losing their prizes. She turned to Crix. Commander, your ship's energy weapons are more powerful than anything we have. If we could get you a clear shot at those chambers. Crix's form pulsed with understanding. But their shields are too strong. Even our most powerful weapons cannot penetrate multiple layers. They don't have to. Chen smiled. We just need to give them something else to worry about. Rodriguez, plot us a collision course with the nearest harvest vessel. The bridge fell silent. Even after weeks working with humans, the Alliance crew members were still shocked by their apparent recklessness. Captain, Crix began, surely you don't intend. Sometimes the best way to handle a bully is to make them flinch, Chen explained. Wang, prepare our nuclear arsenal. Not for launch. I want them primed for manual detonation. Crix, have the Starlight Seeker ready their main battery. When those shields shift to stop us, hit them with everything you've got. What followed was either brilliant strategy or complete insanity, depending on who was telling the story. The Dauntless accelerated toward the harvest vessel, its nuclear weapons hot and its crew prepared for the worst. The massive alien ship, faced with what appeared to be a suicide run, did exactly what Chen predicted. It diverted shield power to protect against the impact. That's when the Starlight Seeker struck, its energy weapons firing through the weakened shield sections to tear into the collection chambers. The results exceeded even Chen's expectations. The stolen resources exploded outward, their containment fields disrupted, creating a chain reaction that ripped through the massive ship. Other harvest vessels are breaking formation, Wang reported, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. They're retreating. Chen allowed herself to breathe again. Send our tactical data to Alliance Command. They need to know these things can be beaten. She turned to Crix, whose crystalline form was pulsing with what she'd learned to recognize as amazement. Sometimes the best strategy isn't the most efficient one. It's the one your enemy never sees coming. How did you know? Crix asked. How did you see the pattern when our computers could not? Human intuition, Chen replied. We've learned to look for the stories behind the data. The Void Hunters weren't attacking randomly. They were setting up a narrative, laying the groundwork for something bigger. Sometimes you need to stop looking at the individual pieces and see the whole picture. As the Dauntless and Starlight Seeker moved to secure the area, Chen couldn't help but wonder what other patterns they were missing. The harvest vessel's retreat felt too easy, too calculated. Whatever the Void Hunters were planning, this was just the beginning. "We've won a battle," she told her crew, "but something tells me the real war hasn't even started yet. Still, we've learned something valuable. Even the most advanced enemies can be defeated if you're willing to think differently." The war room aboard Alliance Station 7 hummed with tension as Captain Chen presented her plan to the assembled commanders. The holographic display showed the largest fleet ever assembled in Alliance space. Over 200 ships, both human and alien, gathered for a decisive strike. "The Void Hunters aren't just raiders anymore," Chen explained, highlighting the enemy's latest movements. "Since deploying their harvest vessels, they've established permanent bases in these sectors. They're preparing for something big." Commander Crix, now serving as liaison between human and Alliance forces, stepped forward. Their crystalline form pulsed with determination. "Our long-range sensors have detected massive energy signatures. They appear to be constructing something within this nebula." "A superweapon?" asked Admiral Zena of the Alliance Strategic Command, her bioluminescent tendrils rippling with concern. "We believe it's worse," Chen replied. "Based on the energy patterns, they're building a mass replication facility. Once operational, they could produce endless copies of their harvest vessels. The entire galaxy would become their feeding ground." The room erupted in overlapping discussions as the implications sank in. Chen waited patiently until Admiral Zena called for order. "Your tactical analysis is sound," the Admiral acknowledged, "but the nebula's radiation makes traditional targeting impossible. Our advanced weapons systems would be useless." "That's why we're not going to rely on advanced weapons," Chen smiled. "We're going to use everything, old and new, human and Alliance. Lieutenant Wong, show them Formation Protocol Echo." The tactical display shifted, showing an unusual fleet arrangement that made several Alliance commanders visibly uncomfortable. Instead of their usual precise formations, ships were grouped in seemingly chaotic clusters. "This is madness," one commander protested. "These positions violate every principle of modern space combat." "Exactly," Chen agreed. "The Void Hunters have adapted to your standard tactics. They expect perfection, prediction, patterns. We're going to give them chaos instead." Over the next hour, Chen laid out her plan. Human warships would lead the charge, their primitive kinetic weapons less affected by the nebula's interference. Alliance vessels would follow in tactical groups, their advanced sensors repurposed to coordinate the fleet's movements through the electromagnetic storm. "The key is flexibility," Chen explained. "Each group operates independently but supports the whole. No fixed patterns, no predictable responses. We hit them from every angle, never doing the same thing twice." Admiral Zena studied the simulation results. "Your human vessels will take heavy casualties in the initial assault." "We know," Chen replied quietly. "But Earth has already committed its entire fleet. We understand what's at stake." The Admiral's tendrils waved in what Chen had learned was a gesture of deep respect. "Very well, Captain. The Alliance fleet is yours to command. Show us how humans wage war." 3 days later, the CSS Dauntless led the combined fleet toward the nebula. The ship's bridge was unusually crowded, with both human crew and Alliance observers at each station. They had trained together for this moment, learning to combine their different approaches into something entirely new. "Multiple enemy contacts ahead," Wong reported. "Void Hunter escorts moving to intercept. They're forming their standard attack pattern." "Time to show them something they've never seen before," Chen announced. "All ships, execute Protocol Echo. Rodriguez, take us in." The human fleet surged forward, breaking into seemingly random groups that defied tactical analysis. Alliance vessels followed, their advanced sensors cutting through the nebula's interference to coordinate the chaos. The Void Hunters' perfect formation faltered as they faced an attack that followed no recognizable pattern. "They're trying to adapt," Crix observed from his station. Their neural network is attempting to predict our movements, but there's nothing to predict, Chen finished. Every ship is acting independently, following their crew's instincts rather than programs. Morris, signal the next phase. The battle that followed would be studied in war colleges across the galaxy for centuries to come. Human warships darted through the nebulous, colorful gases, their kinetic weapons blazing paths for Alliance vessels to follow. When the Void Hunters adjusted to defend against railguns, they faced precise energy weapon strikes from unexpected vectors. When they raised shields against energy weapons, tactical nuclear devices slipped through their defenses. "We've breached their outer defensive line," Wang reported, getting readings on their facility. "Captain, it's massive. The construction is almost complete." Chen studied the sensor data, noting how the facility's energy patterns ripple through space. "Look at those resonance frequencies. The whole structure is connected through their neural network. Rodriguez, get me a firing solution on these nodes. Wang, prepare a full spread of our remaining nuclear warheads." "Captain," Crix interrupted, their form pulsing with realization. "If we overload their network, the facility will tear itself apart." Chen nodded. "Signal all ships. Concentrate fire on my marked targets. Let's show them why thinking for yourself is better than sharing one mind." The combined fleet struck as one, not through programmed coordination, but through shared purpose and trust built in battle. Human nuclear weapons overloaded the facility's energy grid while Alliance beams targeted its structural weak points. The massive construct began to buckle, its neural network unable to compensate for the chaos being unleashed upon it. "Enemy facility is critical," Wang announced, detecting cascade failures throughout their network. "The Void Hunters, they're losing cohesion. Without their central network to coordinate them," Chen realized, "they can't maintain their perfect formations. All ships press the advantage. Show them what individual initiative can do." The victory that followed wasn't just a triumph of technology or tactics. It was a victory of adaptation, of combining different approaches to create something greater than the sum of its parts. As the last Void Hunter ships retreated in disarray, Chen looked around her bridge at the mixed crew of humans and aliens working together. "Send word to Alliance Command," she ordered. "The facility is destroyed, but more importantly, we found their weakness. They rely on perfection, on absolute coordination. We just proved that chaos, properly applied, can overcome any pattern." The CSS Dauntless drifted silently through the debris field that was once the Void Hunters' replication facility. Captain Chen stood at her familiar position on the bridge, but everything else had changed. Human and Alliance crew members worked side by side at each station, their differences forgotten in the wake of their shared victory. Long-range sensors detecting massive quantum disturbances, Wang reported, her hands moving across controls that merged human intuition with Alliance technology. "Multiple signatures, bigger than anything we've seen before." Commander Crix's crystalline form pulsed with alarm. "They're coming. The Void Hunter's central consciousness has awakened." The tactical display lit up as reality itself seemed to tear open. What emerged made their previous enemies look like scouting parties. Dozens of massive void ships, each larger than a small moon, began moving into attack formation. At their center, a construct that defied description, the physical manifestation of the Void Hunter's hive mind. "All ships, battle stations," Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the odds they faced. "Execute dispersal pattern Delta. Remember your training. No fixed formations, no predictable responses." The combined human Alliance fleet moved like no force had ever moved before. Alliance vessels with human crews performed maneuvers their designers had never imagined possible. Human warships, enhanced with Alliance technology, struck with both brutal force and surgical precision. "Enemy fleet advancing," Rodriguez reported. "They're, Captain, they're adapting in real time. Every tactic we use, they counter within seconds." Chen watched as the massive void ships coordinated with impossible precision. Of course they are. They're not just connected anymore. They're being directly controlled by their central consciousness. Time to show them why individuality matters. Execute Protocol Omega. The plan they had developed was either brilliant or insane, probably both, which made it perfectly human. Each ship in their fleet began broadcasting on different frequencies, creating a cacophony of signals that mirrored the chaos of their movements. Neural disruption fields at maximum, Wong called out. Alliance quantum emitters aligned. Ready on your mark. Chen took a deep breath. Everything they had learned about the enemy, every lesson about the strength of chaos over order, had led to this moment. Send the signal. All ships, think for yourselves. What followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Every ship in the human alliance fleet began acting independently, following no pattern but their own crew's instincts. The Void Hunters' perfect coordination became their weakness as they tried to predict and counter hundreds of different strategies simultaneously. Their neural network is overloading, Crix announced, excitement breaking through their usual crystalline calm. They cannot process so many independent variables. The massive void ships began to falter, their movements becoming erratic as their central consciousness struggled to maintain control. That's when Chen gave the order she had been waiting for. All ships, converge on these coordinates. Show them what happens when free minds work together by choice. The human alliance fleet moved as one, not through forced coordination, but through shared purpose. Alliance energy weapons struck in perfect harmony with human kinetic arsenals. Tactical nuclear devices slipped through gaps created by precisely calculated quantum strikes. The Void Hunter's central consciousness, overwhelmed by the unpredictable assault, began to fragment. Its massive physical form writhed in space as its perfect network collapsed under the weight of chaos. Enemy vessels losing cohesion, Wong reported, unable to keep the triumph from her voice. Their neural links are failing cascade-style across the entire fleet. Send to all ships, Chen ordered. Push the advantage. Don't give them time to adapt. The battle's conclusion was both spectacular and inevitable. Without their central coordination, the Void Hunters' mighty ships fell one by one to the combined might of human ingenuity and alliance technology. Their consciousness, the entity that had sought to impose perfect order on the galaxy, collapsed under the weight of its own rigid thinking. Hours later, Chen stood in the Alliance High Council chamber, her uniform still bearing the scorch marks from the battle. The assembled leaders of 100 species watched in silence as she delivered her report. The Void Hunters weren't defeated by superior technology or greater numbers, she explained. They fell because they couldn't understand or adapt to chaos. They saw our differences as weakness, our individuality as primitive. They never realized that true strength comes from choosing to work together while remaining unique. Admiral Zena floated forward, her bioluminescence bright with emotion. You have taught us much, Captain Chen. The Alliance has long sought perfection in all things. We forgot that evolution, progress, even life itself arises from imperfection, from adaptation and change. Humanity doesn't bring perfection to the galaxy, Chen replied with a smile. We bring innovation, adaptability, and maybe a little controlled chaos. Sometimes, that's exactly what's needed. The CSS Dauntless remained in space above the Alliance capital world, its scarred hull a testament to the battles it had survived. The ship, like the crew that served aboard her, was neither purely human nor Alliance anymore. It had become something new, a symbol of how different approaches could combine to create something greater than either could achieve alone. As Chen looked out at the stars from her familiar position on the bridge, she reflected on how far they had come. Humanity had entered the galactic stage as primitives, barely able to achieve faster-than-light travel. They would go forward as equals, bringing their unique perspective to the challenges that lay ahead. New reports coming in from the outer sectors, Morris announced. The remaining Void Hunter vessels are surrendering. Without their central consciousness, they're beginning to develop individual awareness. Chen nodded, a thoughtful smile crossing her face. Send them our terms, and include an invitation. If they're ready to think for themselves, there might be a place for them in the Alliance too. After all, that was the greatest lesson humanity had brought to the stars. The future belonged not to those who sought perfection, but to those who could adapt, change, and grow. In the end, controlled chaos had proven stronger than rigid order, and the galaxy would never be the same.